I'm live. That light is really bright. I might have to do something about that. All right, folks. I kind of took the day off testing. Those of you who have been following along with my videos will know that I've been testing burning diesel and gasoline mixtures. And I ended my previous video at 30% gasoline, 70% diesel. And I said that I said that I was going to test from 40% to 100%. Oh, by the way, this isn't a video saying that I burnt my house down or anything, just in case anyone's wondering. Yeah, what this video is about is just kind of, hey, Robert Clark, are you from aren't you from like the Joel Arsenault YouTube days, like way back? Jet ski stuff? Hey, Ron. Yeah, so I've been testing with the gasoline and diesel mix, and I kind of hit a point where it doesn't make any sense. I'm not going to ruin it for you guys, but it doesn't make any sense to keep going because it's getting very much like burning pure gasoline. So I've kind of come up with a couple of thoughts. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. A lot of people think that I'm just completely reckless and I don't care for my health or safety. But I entered the garage a couple of times last night and I was just like, I don't want to keep doing this. I've got to go into the garage where this heater's running and pumping out these fumes. And in order to monitor it, I actually have to be in there kind of for a minute. So I was going in, holding my breath, and then trying to talk to the camera and sound normal while you're trying to use up all the air in your lungs and not breathe in. Anyway, it gets to be a bit much. So I might continue on and actually go through with it. But what I'm considering doing, I actually purchased, I've made a little list here and I'm already, let's see, testing results, new parts. So I'm keeping up. So somebody commented in one of my last videos and said that they had a, can't remember what brand it was, but they had a gas burning heater, one of these diesel heaters that burnt gas. And they said that it used a 65 milliliter pump. And I was like, that's got to be wrong. I've never even seen a 65 milliliter pump. And then I typed it into Google and sure enough, it popped up on Amazon right away. And so now I don't know if the camera will pick up on that. I have a 65 milliliter pump. So I am going to be testing this with pure gasoline at some point to see what that will do. See if maybe that's one. I'm fairly confident that this isn't the only thing. All of the diesel heater chambers that I found, I did another live not too long ago and chatted with people about what I thought the issue was. And at that time, I hadn't actually looked at these chambers. Cheers from Melbourne, Australia. I'm familiar with the name Melbourne. I've probably heard of it in a movie or something like that. But there's a band called the Distillers, a punk band with a chick. Melbourne is a tropical London. Tropical London. If you lose me, you lose a good thing. That's one thing I know for sure. If you lose me, girl, you lose a good thing. Yeah, I think it's Rancid. Anyway, yeah, I got completely off track. Melbourne, welcome. The CO2 reader and the 4-channel reader might be good for references. The CO might be low, but a lot of CO2 can displace. Yes, that is true. it does take quite a bit before that would become a problem. And CO2 is heavier than air. A lot of people, it's shocking how many people confuse CO2 and CO, and kind of attribute traits of one to the other. But yeah, carbon monoxide is quite a bit heavier than air, and it will sink down quite low and not mix very well with air. Where, it depends on the concentration and all sorts of other things, but carbon monoxide is actually slightly, I believe, lighter, but it mixes very well with air. Anyway, what I was saying was, when I talked about diesel heaters burning gas in my last live stream, I hadn't looked at a chamber in quite a while. And I've actually bought a new chamber. I've seen these. I have ADHD so bad. I hadn't actually looked at any of the chambers closely. And so I went and looked on the internet after that live stream and came across a few different, what I believe to be gas burning chambers. They claim to be. You can never tell if the photo actually matches the item. But anyway, what it appears what they do, and it's going to be really hard. I'm not going to try to draw it out for you guys, but it appears what they do is burn gasoline more like a propane burner or like your barbecue grill would. So they basically don't have the air and the fuel coming in together. So a diesel heater chamber, the fuel comes in here and it goes into this area between the baffle and this end here. And the fuel sits in a wick. There's actually a little bit of a wick in by that little gear looking thing. And the air actually comes out through there as well. So the air from the fan goes in through these little fins. It goes in through a hole in the back and it comes out there. And so the diesel vapors are flame. The combustion actually, comes out through that hole with the fuel and the air. With the gas burning ones, what they appear to do is this inside hole here where the fuel comes in, where your gasoline comes in, has a sintered metal material. Kind of, if you've ever seen a air muffler or a air filter for like pneumatic tools or whatever to silence them, it kind of looks like that. Some of it looks like that. Some of it looks like compressed, steel wool. And I believe what that does is basically makes sure that there's no liquid fuel. It vaporizes as it's coming out. And then they actually have the air coming in a different area. So the fuel and the air come in two kind of separate, hey, grad. The fuel and the air actually come in separately. And I think probably what's happening, I was probably partly right about what I said on my last live stream. The air and the fuel, because the air and the gasoline are coming in together and mixing in this chamber, the fuel gasoline vapors are probably getting forced out quicker than they can be consumed by the air they're being forced out with, because there's just not enough air to support the combustion. With the diesel, it flashes off a lot slower and it requires, anyway, we're not going to go down that path any further. So I have gotten a larger fuel pump, 65 milliliter fuel pump, and I will be trying that, but I kind of suspect that what we're going to do is burn a massive amount of fuel. That is what? 3.25 times more fuel than with the standard fuel pump. My math isn't that great, but anyway, so it will be interesting. I might have to make some modifications. Maybe I can modify a chamber. I did buy an extra chamber and I have another one. Could possibly put some holes in here, some holes in around here so that air actually comes in on the outside. The only problem, not the only problem, a huge problem with doing that is that you're basically going to have, this is really hard to explain without a cutaway, but basically the way the combustion process works on this is you have the fuel coming in here, air coming in here, combustion all happens inside of this tube and comes out the end. When it comes out the end, it hits the exchanger, which is shaped like this, and then it goes all the way back, and the muffler, or the exhaust rather, is actually right here. So the hot gases have to go, they hit the end of the exchanger, and they have to circle back and go all the way back along the exchanger, which allows them more time and more surface area to dissipate their heat into the exchanger. If we modify a chamber so that air comes in along here, we could get a very hot burn, but that hot burn is going to be right next to the exhaust, and we're probably going to lose a huge amount of heat out the exhaust, maybe even to the point where it just shoots flames out, which would be pretty cool. I don't know if I actually published the video. I'm pretty sure I have a video out there where I ran my modified burn chamber without the tube. You old school or OGs will probably remember I had a chamber that you could split apart. I had a hose clamp holding the burn tube on, and you could just pull it off to clean it out. And I ran that a couple of times, or maybe just once, without the burn tube on. And yeah, it was pretty exciting. It shot a lot of flames out. So I don't know what video that was in, but I think I published it. It was in with one of my other tests or something. Anyway, I remember, yes. Cherry red hot exhaust. It's okay, I suppose, if you have a massive heat exchanger on the exhaust and you're willing to collect heat that way. Can you guys hear me, by the way? There's a little volume indicator on my screen here, and it's only going up like one green dot, maybe two if I talk real loud. Go Flames, go. Sounds fine. Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, next thing we are going to talk about. Let's see. I'm going to check my list. I'm going to try to actually... Volume is okay. Thank you. I appreciate that, guys. Let's see. So I don't know if it's actually coming up in the title of this video, but we're going to talk about batteries and some stuff. I made a silly purchase, and I'm kind of regretting it, but got to make do. For all those people calling me Viver shills, I'm going to say something in this live stream. I'm going to advise you against buying a Viver product in favor of something else, because it's at least in Canada, it's a better deal. So we'll get to that in a bit, but let's see. Oh, I got some dampers. So I got, and typically once they are activated, as I said, output via the breakdown, it's 455. Oh boy. Was going to say, I believe that a catalytic converter would be really cool. The thing that a lot of people either don't know or underestimate is catalytic converters have to be very hot before they actually start working. You guys can do a quick Google search and see how hot they start working at, but typically gas engines will actually, during the startup, the fuel injection while the engine is cold will actually dump a whole bunch of fuel into the exhaust system on purpose to heat up the catalytic converter very quickly to get it basically working, from what I understand anyway. Question, is CO meter ST90 Is that the one that I have, that red one? It's on an AliExpress for about $80. $80 seems like a lot of money. Sometimes AliExpress I got mine on Amazon and I didn't pay anywhere near $80. Beaver does have one that seems pretty good, but the red one that I got from Amazon, and it was much cheaper than $80. It was like maybe 60. I thought it was under 40, but yeah, I'll actually look for you here. If I disappear, I apologize. I'm going to go Amazon, see if I can find the answer for this fine gentleman. My orders, CO. Here we go. Of course, the price of it, $52.99 on Amazon Canada. So it should be cheaper anywhere else in the world. But yes, this is the ST9700. Hope that answers your question. Nothing on fire today. What did you miss? Talked a little bit about the testing with gasoline that I'm doing. I got a 65 milliliter fuel pump for experimentation. Gonna deliver a whole lot more fuel, whether that's gasoline or diesel or a mix. And now we're talking about, I picked up a damper and then got sidetracked. 21% tax. Wow. What is it? VAT is value added tax. I don't think they call it that here. We have GST, PST, and HST. So it's goods and service, provincial sales tax, and harmonized sales tax. Anyway, I got some of these dampers, which are, I've never used these before. I've always wanted to, but they're supposed to dampen the flow rate of the diesel so that you don't get that pulsing. Maybe some people don't know still, but diesel fuel pumps, dosing pumps, work by every stroke of a standard diesel heater fuel pump pumps 0.022 milliliters of fuel. And when they're running at lower speeds, especially, there is a delay between when they pump. They actually pump less than once every second. So you have a pump and they will pump in 0.022 milliliters of fuel. And then there's actually a second delay before they pump again. And so these little devices here, I did end up getting 2 of them, and I thought I could probably run, if it doesn't work perfectly, I can run one into the other and yeah, see what we can do there. But anyway, it's supposed to smoothen out the delivery of the fuel into the heater so it doesn't pulse as much. The pump will still pulse, but this will dampen out those pulses at the heater. So we'll see if it works. We'll see if it works, will it actually affect the burn quality with gasoline and with diesel. My heater is only running at 130 C, and last year it was 190. Any idea what might change? The only thing I could think is that possibly it switched into a alpine mode or plateau mode that you weren't aware of, or I guess I would try to monitor, run your heater for an hour on full and see if it's consuming about half a liter of fuel. If it's not, you may have an issue with the pump. Is like, the pumps on these have a piston and a cylinder, and it's basically just a precision fit. So every stroke of the pump should deliver 0.022 milliliters of fuel. But if the fit isn't perfect, or if it corroded over the summer while it was sitting, but the pump is still working, it could be a poor fit. So you could be getting, 0.018 milliliters per stroke instead of the full amount. So you might just need a new fuel pump. Yeah, but that's all I could think of. As long as the setup is the same. All the Webesto brands, burners installed years ago, had dampers. Yeah, that's where I've seen them first, any of those kits. Maybe he has old diesel. Old diesel, yeah, can lose some of its energy. Okay, what was I even talking about? Dampers. Okay, we've done the dampers. What are we going to talk about next? Mufflers. What? Fuel pump I already talked about. Okay, let's talk about mufflers. I know what the problem is. Ain't got no gas in it. Okay, mufflers. So these diesel heaters come with mufflers, and some of them are actually better quality than others, but it's hard to get any definitive answer or results. A lot of people claim a lot of different things, and there are people who are out there testing a different muffler, but I decided to take things overkill, as I always do. I was actually going to run a V-twin muffler off of a tractor, and the way that I do things is I will do research for days, sometimes weeks, and then I get into this mood where I have to do it now. So I've basically procrastinated on something for like a week or a month, and I just spend like hours and hours and hours researching. And then I go online. I'm a big fan of Amazon because I can just get stuff to my door, and I know I'm not going to get ripped off. Even if the product is crappy, I know it's actually going to show up at my house. And if it doesn't show up at my house, I know I can get my money back. That's happened a few times. Anyway, so I try to buy almost everything that I can through Amazon. So long story long, I was going to buy a V-twin muffler off of a tractor and make it work with my diesel heaters. And I got looking around, couldn't find exactly what I wanted when I wanted it. So instead, and I thought this was kind of funny too, is partly why I got them. But instead, I ended up buying a couple of basically mini bike or scooter mufflers. So one of the reasons why I got this is because it has an aluminum, I don't know what you would call this, but basically this flange here, it's pretty heavy duty really, but they weren't terribly expensive. The inlet on the muffler is, I don't know why I'm having a hard time putting words to this. The bore of this is quite long, so it's going to be fairly easy for me to make some sort of an adapter. I think this is it's like 1.1 or something like that. This is a little bit bigger than the diesel heater pipe. I actually have a piece over there, so I'll grab it and come right back. Okay, so this is the diesel heater. This is a diesel heater pipe, and yeah, it fits loose in there, but it'll be pretty easy for me to make something that fits in there, and then I can slide my exhaust into. Tiny turbocharger on a waste oil heater. That would be cool. You need a supercharger. Do you think the new heat sock cover helps on the pipe, keeps it safe? It definitely helps. When I was testing the toolbox heater, I used like 3 layers of the insulation, and I had the exhaust rest. I shouldn't even say this live on camera, but I had the exhaust kind of resting against one of these plastic bins, and it didn't melt the bin. I measured the temperature, and I don't know if it was 2 layers or 3 layers, but I measured the temperature, and it was 100 Celsius. So enough to boil water, but enough, not enough to melt that plastic. So it definitely makes a difference. Yes, I was thinking of cherry bomb. The problem is that you'd have to find one with a fairly small diameter, because the way they work is kind of the same as this, actually. This is a straight through muffler, which a cherry bomb is. But basically, these are glass packed tubes, so fiberglass packed tubes, and those little perforations in there are just little pockets for the sound to escape into as the exhaust is passing through. So, yeah, I'm not sure how well these are going to work. I think they're probably going to work considerably better than what the heaters come with. So, yeah, I should say I bought 2 of them. And I think they're going to be fairly easy to fit to my system. And they come with a nice aluminum bracket. So I should be able to put 2 of them side by side. And they're aluminum, so they'll withstand the elements under there fairly well. One thing I'm just noticing right now is I don't think it'll be an issue because there's a seam, but they don't have any bleed to get rid of moisture. And I guarantee, because of the mass of this, thermal mass, and the fact that this is aluminum, people are always on me about where I point my exhaust and condensate and all that. These actually will probably build up some condensate because there's a lot of thermal mass there. So it'll take a long time to heat up above the point where the vapors will flash off. And also, it's aluminum, so it's going to dissipate heat pretty quickly in cold weather. So I might have to drill a little weep hole is what I'm trying to say. I've used improved mufflers, rectangular box with the aluminum ends. I was going to buy one of those, and it works well, basically S-shaped glass. Yeah, I was actually going to buy a couple of those, and I put 2 of them in my shopping cart. And then I know this was not the fault of the mufflers. I pretty much guarantee this guy was burning waste oil or a vegetable oil or something, but this guy rated them at 1 star and then posted a picture where the mufflers had completely melted. The inside of them had just like pooled out onto the ground. I was wishing that I could, hey, Philip, I was wishing that I could comment and say, yeah, I bet you were just burning diesel. It's like aluminum melts. I don't know how hot your exhaust was, but aluminum melts at a way higher temperature than your exhaust ever should be. So you must have been doing something wrong. But anyway, so I decided not to get them, and I got these. Also, I make videos, and this will be more interesting for people. So that was also part of it. I don't have any noise complaint with the small. Yeah, some people get really annoyed by noises, and other people not at all. My heaters actually aren't too bad. The mufflers aren't too bad, or the exhaust sound isn't too bad. But because this potentially is going to be, this is probably not probably, this is definitely stupid. This is the way my brain works. I'm going to roll up to a customer's house with this bus. In the summertime, the mat flooring will be taken out of this. And if things go to plan, which they probably almost certainly won't, but I'll be using this to work on lawnmowers in the spring and fall. Not sure if I'll do it throughout the summer, but I'll be pulling up to a customer's house in a noisy diesel bus. It's actually not that noisy. I'll have to run air compressors and run their lawnmower and, tools, grinder to sharpen their blades. I'm going to be making a bunch of noise is what I'm trying to say. And then I'm worried about the sound that my diesel heater might be making on some days. It doesn't make any sense, but yeah, that's just how my brain works. So Anyway, it's kind of funny. I've always gotten comments, people saying stuff about fuel pumps, and almost all of my use case with diesel heaters is quite different from other people, because I get diesel heaters and I'm kind of torture testing them or running them to see what the fuel efficiency is, or basically doing nonsense stuff. The bus is really the first time that I've ever used a heater for heat. Like, I've heated my house with a diesel heater at one point, but I was doing it as an experiment. And anyway, basically what I'm trying to say is most of the use that I get out of diesel heaters is making videos for you guys. And I sometimes stay warm in the process, but it's not the same as getting a diesel heater, installing it, and then depending on that diesel heater for months or years. The one exception, I guess, would be, well, I'm not really being fair to myself. I use one in my truck, and I used one last year in an ice fishing tent that we kept in the backyard. And we're using one in the hut, and I've got 2 installed in my bus. But anyway, what I was trying to say is now that I have these heaters installed in my bus, and I have 2 of them, I can sometimes actually run them on lower settings. And when I run them on a lower setting, I can hear the click of the fuel pump. And it's not annoying, but it's enough that I'm thinking to myself that it could be picked up by the camera and annoying to people who are watching. And so I plan on actually doing something about it. But it could, I could end up down the rabbit hole of trying to make completely silent fuel pumps, even though it doesn't make any sense. I love the wheel. So I'm going to tell you guys this, and I'm going to tell you guys something about the wheelbarrow heater. I don't know how many of you saw that. Hey, Werner, it's unnecessarily loud. Any muffler. Room. That wasn't a good idea. Since I used one layer of aluminum hose in the inlet, that wasn't a good idea. So I'm going to try to focus on one story here for a second. Those of you who remember that silly video with the inflatable suit, that the wheelbarrow heater with the inflatable suit that I went out for the walk. Yeah, I walked to the convenience store in really cold weather, and then I almost froze to death because I was trying to get a thumbnail for the video. It was like minus 27 plus a ridiculous wind chill. And my cameras stopped working because it was too cold, and it was just miserable. Anyway, that was supposed to be a feeler video for another video that I had planned for years. And I haven't said anything about this because I'm afraid I'll a lot of the time come up with some brilliant idea, or what I think is a brilliant idea, and then I don't pull the trigger on it. And then 3 months later or 6 months later or a year later, I see some other YouTube doing it. And I just think, you know what? I'm happy for him that video worked out, but why didn't I do that? Anyway, originally what the idea was, and I almost bought one of these last night. Originally, the idea was to buy an adult tricycle or actually get Beaver to send me an adult tricycle. And I was going to put a battery and the heater in the basket of the adult tricycle, and then get in my inflatable suit and drive around on an adult tricycle in the winter while having hot air blown around me. Or maybe even try to enclose it. The original idea in my head was enclose the whole thing in like a little, you can get these little canopies for your lawn tractor if you're out plowing or snow blowing. And anyway, I was going to bike around on an adult tricycle in the winter with a diesel heater and a battery and fuel tank in the back, keeping me nice and toasty warm so I could go bike around and get groceries or something. Anyway, the wheelbarrow heater and inflatable suit was kind of to test to see if I didn't want to buy the tricycle or ask Beaver for the tricycle if the suit couldn't be inflated and heated with the diesel heater. And I also didn't want to do it if people just thought that that video was stupid. And that video was kind of slow getting views. So I personally thought it was hilarious. And I thought it was one of those videos that was just going to take off and maybe not go completely viral. But I thought, no, I don't know. I've got a weird sense of humor. And I thought that that was just, people were going to love that video. And yeah, it didn't do bad, but it didn't do terribly well. And so, yeah, a lot of YouTube creators, and I don't blame them, but a lot of YouTube creators don't give a lot of thought to how they represent the company. They're basically like, you give me this and I'll make it. Our agreement is you give me this and I do a video. Beaver will often offer to send me things and I say no because I don't think that video will do well. They tried to send me pressure washers and I don't know, stuff for forklifts, and they've tried to send me all sorts of different things. And I turn down most of it, sometimes just because I'm too busy, but other times because I just don't think that the video will do well. And I feel bad if they're giving me product and they're not making sales on it. So I can actually look through the affiliate link or through the affiliate program. I can look and I can see what people have bought on my recommendation or through my links. So anyway, long ramble. I was planning an adult tricycle build. I remember the inflatable suit. That was funny. All that noise would be like an ice cream truck. You're a strange man like me then. I still love cherry red pipe under the... It's kind of funny. I post those intros sometimes for the OG people who were watching the videos back in the day, kind of the start of my channel. And when I do it, some people love it and some people hate it. I had one guy in one of my last videos post it and say that he couldn't even make it through the intro. He's like, I would love to watch your video, but I couldn't even make it through the intro. I'm sorry. CO poisoning on a bike in the winter. Gonna put a diesel heater in my Boxster EV conversion. Cool. What kind of insane thermal engine intensity would you... Bleh. Starter. Hit them up for a... Okay, so we may as well get into the topic of batteries. Since Richard's bringing it up. I'm the one who made the comment on the last video of CO2 50 parts per million, diesel heater exhaust running through my old... the steam radiator. Yes, I remember you. Did you make any changes? I'd be really curious to see what happens if you run 20 or 30% gasoline. Sucks can't put drawings or pics to show you what I mean by a heater coiled exhaust tube for the capture of the intake waste heat. Yeah, I have a couple of videos of capturing exhaust heat, and I've had a couple of people shoot shorts for me to show me their systems, and a lot of people seem to get a lot of different results. I had one guy who I think had like 2 meters of exhaust, and he just had it in a coil, like a spiral, and it seemed to be working fairly well. But yeah, I remember you spraying starting fluid in the heater to get... Yeah, I used to use starting fluid, brake cleaner. I had gasoline in a bottle and I would just waft it into the intake to get it to start. Had a guy tell me not to go near the heater when it was not running like that because it could blow up. And I told him to watch the intro of the video. I've literally got my thumb over the inlet, and when I take my thumb off the inlet, the heater backfires and you can see a flame shooting out the exhaust. That was fun. I thought my heater was running perfect until you said check the CO. Yeah. Hello, Eric. Yeah. Carbon monoxide doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get soot, but I know under, say, 40 parts per million, you're probably pretty safe as far, not safe, I shouldn't use the word safe. Your heater probably won't have issues if you're under 40 parts per million, but I like to see mine much lower than that. If you're over 50 parts per million, I don't know, but that's where I think you're probably going to start having problems. You had any Bluetooth connection issues with low temperatures? No, but I'll talk about this in this video because it's a really weird thing that's happened. So yeah, the answer to that is no. Low temperature doesn't seem to affect my Bluetooth connectivity. But the old app, so you guys probably remember wow, I used to just be able to say the old one or the new one, but I have so many heaters now. So the heater that's in my truck has the same controller as these, and they are Bluetooth. These use the Air Heater by BLE app, and that's the one that I've always liked, and it always had better connectivity. It was a solid connection. It would connect from over 100 feet away every time, stay connected, never had issues. They've done updates on this, and now it most of the time has some sort of issue. I can always connect. I don't know if you guys will be able to see this at all. So it's trying to connect. It's connected to the two bus heaters. It's slowly trying to connect to other stuff. But now it's not. Yeah, it says my truck is online, but I'll go to my truck. Now it's going to prove me a liar now, of course. Okay, let's go to one of the bus heaters. See if we can switch modes. Okay, so it's going to prove me a liar, of course, on camera, but this one has been doing some weird things where it'll take 2 or 3 attempts to actually connect, sometimes even more. It'll say that it has no connection, but then when it does connect, it has perfect connectivity. And then you'll do one act. I'll turn the heat up, but then I'll go to switch modes and it'll fail. It'll just not switch modes. Anyway, so Air Heater by BLE app is now giving me some problems. While I was doing the tests where I was mixing the gasoline and diesel, and when I was just burning pure gasoline, I was using the other heater, the heater that has the white cover with the orange Viva writing on it. And it uses the Air Heater CC app, which is this. And it worked absolutely flawlessly every single time. It always used to have connectivity issues. It would connect and then it would disconnect and only reconnect if you shut the heater off. It was doing some really weird things. I had assumed that it was a problem with the heaters because they had said that they had done some updates and whatever. Anyway, I'm not sure if I'm the only one that has had problems with that app, but I've had nothing but problems from day one. And then after saying that for a year, that it was nothing but problems, now all of a sudden it's working better than the Air Heater by BLE app. So it works perfect now. And I kind of feel like I should make a video saying that it works perfect. But yeah, who's got time for that? Where are we now? My goodness. Around here, things blowing up during testing is a risk. Plus booms that don't cause damage or fun. Yeah. For my next diesel heater install, I'm just omitting the combustion intake pipe, and I'm running 3-inch, goes through the deck, simple. Yeah, I kind of wanted to do that. I was thinking of getting an aluminum box section. What do they call it? Extruded aluminum box section that was like 2 inches by 5 inches and 8 feet long, making a cap for one end of it, running the diesel in, and almost using it as a baseboard heater. I wanted to do it really bad in the bus, but it would have made the install way more complicated. And yeah, I don't know if you guys remember, but it was like minus 25 degrees Celsius when I did the install. So I really just wanted to get it done. But steel will definitely work. It will transmit some heat. I would personally prefer aluminum because it's going to stand up to if there is any acidity. In the video where I tried the Viver heat exchanger on the exhaust, I checked the acidity of the exhaust condensate, and it wasn't actually that bad, but aluminum would definitely stand up better over time than steel would. Steel is very cheap, so maybe it's worth it. You could use twice as much. Oh snap, how you doing, brother? Love your vids. Who is this? Sean Wrinkle. I am well, thank you. I've been sourcing box aluminum sections for my new conversion. Nice. 20 millimeters, so 4 inches by 3/4 inches. That's pretty cool. Very cool, very cool. I would love to try some of that. Yeah, I was thinking of basically building like a baseboard heater with my exhaust. But again, it was really cold. It would have complicated things, and I didn't want to use up that space. But I think that that's a really cool idea. It would probably be considerably cheaper than a heat exchanger, almost of any kind. And I've been watching for long, but I watch in fits and starts. I do that with a lot of channels too. I'll fall behind, and then I either feel bad, have time, or get sick, and I have nothing to do. So then I'll just catch up on different videos. Hit like, 40 people watching. We're doing better than last time. Awesome. Oh crap, I'm late. What problems do you anticipate I might see at 50 parts per million? I ran for a month and then took the combustion chamber apart for inspection. It looked fine to my untrained eyes. If you weren't seeing any kind of soot inside of the tube, so if you're looking in here and you're not seeing any soot, then it's probably okay. Even if you're not getting soot there, the main area of concern is actually just behind that disc. So that's a baffle. And in behind there is where the fuel, that's where the combustion is actually supposed to take place. And there is a wick material in there. And if the airflow isn't adequate and you're getting a lot of carbon monoxide, it could mean that the burn in there is compromised and you're building up carbon in the wick. Once the wick gets built up to a certain level, the carbon will start forming on the surface. Once that happens and the volume of the chamber changes, you then will end up with difficult starts, very smoky starts. Sometimes it will start making a weird pulsing sound that almost sounds like a pulse jet engine, like the original, what are the German V1 rockets or bombs. Anyway, yeah. But if you're not seeing any soot in there, yeah, you might not have any problems. At 50 parts per million, it's not a sure thing. Yeah, 50 parts per million, I would say definitely. The reason why he's getting 50 parts per million, if you missed it, is because he's running his exhaust he's scavenging heat from the exhaust using a steam heat exchanger. Yeah, that's exactly what we discussed in the comment section of a video. I said between 20 and 30 parts, 20 parts, 10 and between 20 and 30%, pardon me, gasoline, and see what happens. I would be really interested. I probably don't have time to do that experiment, but I'm really interested to know. If you try that, let us know. That would be a really interesting use for gasoline, leaning stuff out. I think for anyone who's at higher elevation, you're welcome. Anyone who's at higher elevation, I'm at about 4,000 feet. I always say that I'm at 4,000 or 4. I think I'm worried sometimes people will watch my videos and I don't know actually what my elevation is in this exact spot. And these heaters use barometric pressure to actually tell you what the elevation is. They call it altitude, but whatever. And on some days, mine will tell me that I'm at like 35. It varies quite a bit. So in different videos, my mind will go back to the last number that I saw on the controller. And so I'm sometimes saying, you know, I'm at this much. I'm like 3,800 feet. I'm at 4,000 feet. I'm at 4,500 feet. Or I'll type it to people in the comment section. And I'm thinking like, people are going to like see me saying one thing and then another thing and then be like, this guy's full of shit. But anyway, they're still going to think I'm full of shit, but that's the reasoning behind it. I don't actually know my elevation. I just know I think they call it corrected elevation. But anyway, evening, Joel. Exhaust options. Something that will seal well around the exhaust outlet. If your original pipe isn't sealing well around the outlet, that means that the casting of the heater is made a little bit small, because the standard pipe, I showed it in one of my last videos, showed it in the video where I was cleaning out my heater from last year. These standard pipes, if you push them on to the exhaust fitting, they lock on there really good if the exhaust outlet on your heater is the correct size. They have a little bit of a taper to them, and these will really lock on there. So if that's not the case, I would say put on a little bit of high temperature silicone, the red stuff or orange stuff, push the pipe in place, wait, make sure that it's lined up wherever you need it to be, wait for it to cure, and then put your hose clamp on. Another good idea is to get good hose clamps. This type of gear clamp has a problem. In fact, you might be able to see it on this pipe. Yeah. This type of gear clamp has an issue with pinching the pipe in a specific area. You can get good hose clamps that basically overlap. So you can do it by putting a shim underneath the hose clamp, but good hose clamps will actually, one part will go under the other so that when you tighten it up, it goes like that instead of just, instead of the gear head of the clamp just mashing everything together. You are at 1050 meters above sea level. I won't remember. What is that in feet? 1050. It does a lot of the time tell me that I'm at 1 kilometer or 1.2 or 1.3 kilometers. Why see? I don't need to seal perfectly as long as it goes out with the draft effect. I put a wrap of muffler epoxy. around the output fitting and then slid the pipe on. 3,400, and why couldn't it be 34, 30? My brain and numbers don't go well. Maybe I could remember that one. 3444. That should be easy to remember, right? Okay, I completely got off of my list, which I figured would happen as soon as people started showing up and talking. I mean, quite honestly, I'm doing this live stream because for those of you who weren't around for the first of the video, yesterday I was working on the next part of the mixing gasoline and diesel together. And what happened was, I'm not going to tell you what percent because I don't want to ruin the video for you, but I worked my way up through the percents, and I'm kind of at a point where I don't want to say it doesn't make sense, because does any of this really make sense? But it doesn't make sense to go higher from where I am because the heater is kind of almost acting like it is with pure gasoline, kind of. And a lot of people think that I'm reckless and dangerous. But when I went into the garage last night to check, you guys who saw my last video know I go into the garage, I look at the carbon monoxide, I look at the TVOC, and then I check the temperature of the exchanger and the temperature of the exhaust. And I was doing that at a bunch of different time points and basically changing stuff on the heater. Anyway, as I was going into my garage, I was starting to notice some really stinky fumes, and I just didn't want to be in there. The meters were starting to read stuff that I didn't like, and I didn't want to be in there. And so I started to question if I wanted to continue on with the testing, because I have gotten a larger fuel pump. And I think part of the problem we're going to have now is we know pretty much for certain that the pure gasoline was too lean. So as we increase the gas level, we're getting more and more lean, basically. It's not really, a chemist or a scientist would be able to explain it a lot better than that. But basically, we're getting lean condition for the fuel that we're using. And since we're using high percentage of gasoline, it keeps, lean for gas, and we're going more towards gas. So how this video started off is me saying that part of the reason why I'm doing this is to avoid working in the garage today and try to decide what I'm going to do next. I think I've decided I'm going to continue on with it. It's just going to take a lot longer because, going in the garage and dealing with, not breathing in those fumes, but not letting them out of the garage and still being able to collect the data accurately. I messed up on one of the tests at 40% because the heater ran out of fuel. Anyway, it was a whole debacle. So let's see, what did I miss here? Permatex muffler tailpipe sealant works well. Hey, Joel, is it worth running the heater on the altitude setting, living in Calgary being at 1048? I find that we are kind of at a spot. So at the elevation that we're at, all of my heaters will run in either mode. So I can run in alpine mode or plateau, so high elevation mode with reduced fuel, and I don't get a lot of carbon monoxide there. But I can also run, we're kind of at a sweet spot where we can get away with running on either side of it. So if you want to conserve a bit of fuel and make less heat, you can run in alpine mode. I haven't had any issues with it. I've tested my exhaust and haven't seen, I think the highest I saw was 17 parts per million, which I still like 0 better than 17. But from my experience, unless I'm doing something stupid, I can run in either mode. If I'm running on the normal mode, my heater runs depending on the heater, one of them will run around 204, 206. And these ones here will run, I think, about 215 on the exchanger, something like that. The one on my truck runs about the same. If I run them on Alpine mode, they go down to about 185. So pretty considerable drop in temperature on the exchanger. I have run pure gas in mine, and I thought it worked fine, but was not as hot. Gasoline, such volatile flashpoint. Why do that? Why not? Gasoline has a lot of interesting properties. One reason why you might want to do this is because you accidentally were filling up at the gas station and put, say, half a gallon or a gallon of gasoline in your jerry can and realized, oh crap, I was supposed to be getting diesel. And instead of throwing that gallon of gasoline away, just put diesel in. And now that I've done the test, I would be perfectly comfortable suggesting that to somebody. If you've got a 5-gallon jerry can and 1 gallon, even 3 gallons. If you got a 3-gallon jerry can and you get a gallon of gas in there, or almost a gallon of gas, it's not going to hurt anything. Your heater might make some funny noises, might make a bit of extra CO2 on startup, or CO2, carbon monoxide on startup, but it's not going to blow up. It's not going to catch on fire, and it's probably going to run completely flawlessly, other than maybe making some funny noises. Let's see. Baseboard heater is pretty awesome, cheap source of material. 5 feet long. This is an awesome idea, and I will definitely try a bunch of aluminum. Sweet. Yeah, one of the things I was going to try a couple of years ago was actually getting a hydronic baseboard heater, or a couple of hydronic baseboard heaters, but they are insanely expensive here. But yeah, hydronic baseboard heaters basically are a copper tube with aluminum fins on them, and they just use air convection. Is that even the way you would say that? They use convection, so there's no fans or anything. But in order to get any real, you use hydronic baseboards? High five. Yeah, I've wanted to do that. I went looking, and the only place I could find them locally was like Home Depot, and I think it was like $140 for one, like 4-foot one, and I kind of calculated that I'd probably need 2 or 3 of them to like. Worked amazing, but drips water. Yeah, if it works well, it's going to drip water because you get below that condensate point. But yeah, it's good to know. I probably years ago should have just invested the money and got a couple. I got used ones from a guy tearing down his house. Cool, very cool. Yeah, I had them in my shopping cart. There's a few on Amazon, and I had them on there for a while, and I think they were like $130 or $150 a piece, maybe even more than that. But yeah, Joel, there is no free heat. If there was, what would we talk about? Life is so unfair. I hear you. It's like the opposite of, in Texas, it's the opposite. You've got to pay to cool. We'd talk about women. There's lots of troubles in life other than heaters. Anyway, is there anyone on here? I'm going to start the next part of this conversation. I'm going to start by saying, don't be offended if I don't take your advice, but I am looking for advice. I might still do this. I might make a video dedicated to looking for help from qualified individuals. And by qualified individuals, I don't necessarily just mean electrical engineers or installers, but yeah. Anyway, now let's get to the next chapter. And that is batteries. I'm going to try to not make the first part of this story too long, but if you guys were around at the first of the video, I told you guys about purchasing these mufflers and how I how I ended up with these was I wanted something else, and I did a ton of research looking for a very specific thing, and I looked and looked and looked and did tons of research and spent way too much time. And then I all of a sudden decided, for no particular reason, that I had to have them right now. And I ordered something completely different just because I wanted it right now. And so I kind of did the same thing with batteries. Countries roughly the size of Texas. I don't know what. Anyway, I bought some batteries. So what ended up happening, I'm going to try to keep this short, but for the past I knew I was going to need batteries for the bus, or I knew I wanted batteries for the bus, and I wasn't sure how much I wanted. So how much storage I wanted. And I started thinking about what I was going to be running and tried to calculate, for a couple of days completely off grid. Just bought a few of these diesel heaters. I'm going down the rabbit hole too. Awesome. There is a ton of information out there. I will say, if you're looking for reliable information, you want to go, I'm not going to say me because that sounds conceited. Go check out David McLucky's channel. Oh my goodness, I forgot. I got to add another item to this list. Oh, this is exciting. I can't believe I almost forgot this. Oh, you guys are going to be excited. Oh, you wait and see what this is. Okay, so I bought batteries and I did a bunch of research and kind of decided what I was going to do is get two 100 amp hour batteries, 12 volts, and install them in the bus. And I decided on that because I thought when I had them, somebody might say, that's ridiculous. You don't need 200 amp hours. Just install one of them. And then I went to order them off. I did a bunch of research and found a bunch of different prices. A company actually contacted me last year and asked me to do a review on their battery. And I was too busy, so I said no. And then I asked them this year if they wanted me to do a review on their battery. And then I don't know if they were just annoyed with me saying no. But anyway, they got back to me and said, send me some information, but I haven't received the battery. So anyway, I looked around a little bit. And when I was looking around, actually not looking at Viver, I was looking for batteries, and an ad popped up for Viver. And I was like, holy crap, Viver sells batteries. Awesome. I'll ask them for one. So I go on to the website, and in my affiliate system, I can go on and see what quantity they have. And so there's a lot more to it than this, but I basically got a new sales representative that works with me. And there was a very low quantity of batteries. So anyway, long story, extremely long. I decided not to ask her for the batteries because I didn't want to put her in a position where she would probably have to say no to me, because the whole idea is I get a product, I review it. If it's any good, some of you will decide that you want to buy the same product. But if there's no product in inventory for you to buy, then it doesn't make sense for them to send me one. So I decided I was just going to buy the battery myself. So I go online to buy it, and somebody else, there was like only a couple in stock, and somebody else had bought them. So then I went into, you know what? I don't need the batteries. I got a bunch of other stuff to do. I can focus on other things. I'll just leave it. So I leave it, and a couple of, I don't know, a month later, maybe a few weeks later, Battery song by Metallica, 1986. Don't know if I'm familiar with that. So I happened to be browsing around. This is exactly what I was doing. I was looking on Viver to get a picture for a thumbnail of one of my last videos. And when I went on, two 280 amp hour batteries popped up. And I was like, okay, well, they're showing the picture of them there, but they're probably not in stock. So I click on the thing, and they've got 2 left in stock. So check out the video on my homepage about super cheap EV every 16 kilowatt. Let's see. Can I actually? Oh, don't know if I can get to your page from here. Go to channel. Okay, there we go. I'll try to remember to do that later. So what I'm here to tell you guys is I made a mistake. I ended up buying 2 280 amp hour batteries from Viver. You do. Very cool. So what I'm here to tell you why this is a mistake. Probably number one, I'm going to say this before you guys do, is that's probably too much for my bus, although I would rather have too much than not enough. So that doesn't bother me a whole lot. What does bother me slightly, at least here in Canada, literally 2 days after ordering my batteries, I saw an ad on Facebook that popped up, and I clicked on it, and it was two. No, it wasn't 2. It was 1, eco-worthy, which, anyway, let me stop distracting me, Joel. 280 amp hour eco-worthy battery on Amazon Canada for, I think it was 539 Canadian, and prices might not translate very well. Anyway, a really good deal Canadian. And not only does it have, so the Viver ones don't have Bluetooth, any way to monitor them, which probably isn't that big of a deal. But anyway, they have Bluetooth, and they have a higher charge and discharge rate. So they're actually basically, objectively, they are better batteries. So I could get 2 eco-worthy batteries cheaper than I could buy. So they were sold individually, but I could get 2 of them cheaper than I can get the Viver ones. And so I'm annoyed by that. And I'm definitely not going to tell you guys to go buy Viver batteries when, I mean, maybe you can't, but that really, really annoyed me, because if I would have saw them cheaper on Amazon in the first place already with the Bluetooth compatibility, I would have just bought them. But yeah, anyway, so I just got them today. The delivery guy made me come out to his car. He was driving like a Toyota Corolla or a Hyundai, I don't know. He was driving a car with 2, he had a bunch of other parcels as well, but he rang the doorbell and basically said that he couldn't bring the parcel to the house, and he was parked like almost at the other side of the neighbor's house. Anyway, I had to unbox these batteries out on the sidewalk and carry them individually. Anyway, wow. If you are going to mix, do it very sparingly, nowhere near 10% of anything. What are we talking about here now, fellas? I'm missing stuff. Before you was born, dude. I gotta see what's going on. What exactly are we talking about? Oh, do I look that young? Before I was born, I'm 48 years old. I was born in 1977. For the win. Keep that in mind for sure. I'm leery about using gas myself. Would a gas and oil mix work then, like two cycle type, vegetable oil, chainsaw? I really, really want to try two cycle chainsaw oil because it is designed to go through, it's designed to burn through engines and not leave any crud behind. If it does, it ruins your engine. So I really want to try that at some point. The problem with that is there's no such thing as used two cycle oil because it gets consumed, and there's no cheap source of two cycle oil. So even fairly cheap two cycle oil doesn't make sense to burn in a diesel heater. So mixing like I don't know, you might be able to mix like a 50-50 or like a ridiculous oil rich mixture in gasoline and burn that well in a diesel heater. But yeah. Yeah, 77. Look at tube style transmission coolers. Have a good night. You too. Take care. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. Supposed to burn ash free, but big dollars. Yeah. Yes. Bye, King. So yeah, I've wanted to try that for years, but I just can't justify the cost because even like vegetable oil, a lot of people will say, oh, vegetable oil is expensive. Some part of the world's vegetable oil is actually cheaper than diesel or kerosene. And in a lot of places, people can actually get free used stuff. So that kind of makes sense. Transmission fluid, you can get used transmission fluid. Hydraulic fluid, you can get used hydraulic fluid. Engine oil, so on and so forth. But there are some things that you're just not going to be able to, yeah, the two cycle thing would just be purely for curiosity. I recently bought a 4, holy crap, AliExpress for an inverter, which might be capable of power my small gasless wire welder, but too cold to build that system right now. Yeah. What needs to be clarified? Two stroke is super, it needs to be clarified. I guess that's a good reason to do it. What is everyone paying per gallon of dyed diesel? $3 US. 77. I'm 76, turned 50 in 1 week. Oh, I was like, I thought you were saying you were 76 years old, turning 50 in a week. Cool. You can get two stroke for boats in quantities that will make sense and don't break the bank. Cool. I've bought it in gallon jugs, but that's the largest quantity I've ever seen it. Yeah. So anyway, I don't mean to change the topic abruptly. $25, Kurt. Oh, $5.25 Canadian for dyed in Ontario per gallon. What even is a gallon? Is a gallon 3.78 or 3.87? Or is it something completely different? I used to think for the longest time, I thought a gallon was 4.5. Is that like European? Or is it like 3.78? Is there a gallon? Does 4.5 have anything to do with anything? Because I used to think a gallon was 4.5 liters. Imperial gallon. There we go. That's why I was confused. So, does anybody use imperial gallon still? You just become part of Texas, or the other way around. Anyway, so I thought it was 4 liters. Yeah, there's a lot of confusion here. We can just go somewhere in between. In my opinion, all fuels have already been perfected for their intended use. Anything outside of that is silly. Absolutely. There's a whole lot more interest in doing silly experimentation. What I find hilarious about my videos is I will do a terribly practical video where I do, tear down, cleaning, replacing of a fuel pump, replacing of a glow plug, replacing of a fan. And they do well, 5,000 views, 6,000 views or something like that. Burning pure gasoline. And I'm not a huge channel, so I'm not, I know there's lots of people out there. Cletus McFarland's getting, 50,000 views an hour. But I released 4 days ago, I released my burning gasoline video, and it's like 13,000 views now. So doing silly stuff, doing questionable stuff is entertaining for me and obviously entertaining for you guys as well. It says a lot. Depends on your tolerance. So I hate to break up you guys can keep talking. 2-stroke would get the desired results and cut the gas vegetable oil. It would be very interesting. Heated suit. Dang it. What was I going to say? Oh, yes. So, a raise of hands. Who thinks that I should put one 280 amp hour battery in my bus and use one for other kind of experiments, like driving my e-bike for 10 hours or more? And who thinks that I should put both 280 amp hour batteries in my bus? Raise your hand, or leave it in a comment. Should I use one of them or two of them? Do it. I might put one of them in I almost bought a bike trailer, one each. I almost bought a bike trailer last night. Both in bus too. The bus, yeah. Yeah, I almost bought a bike trailer last night so that I could connect one of these big ass batteries up to my bicycle and not have any kind of range anxiety. Some of the trailers you can get for bikes have a single wheel on the back, so you can still navigate fairly narrow paths and whatnot. I think it would be quite interesting. Powered trailers. So here's a funny thing. I was going to make a video about 2 years ago. I come up with all these crazy ideas for videos, and then I'm like, nah, people won't watch that. I was actually going to so there are restrictions in Canada. I don't know if all the provinces are different, but we're only allowed to have, I think it's 750 watts of power, which is kind of pathetic, but we're only allowed to have 750 watts of power or motor power. And we're only allowed to go, I think it's like 32 kilometers an hour. So my electric bike actually tops out at 32. So you'll turn the throttle and it hits 32 and then it just stops pulling and you coast and coast and coast. And then you slow down and it'll start pulling again. Anyway, you can buy them on eBay and Amazon that go faster, much faster. But to be able to be out there on the trails legally, or the sidewalks, roads, whatever, that's what you're supposed to have. How can you figure out which controller your diesel heater can use? Mine won't allow me to adjust airflow. puts crazy levels of carbon monoxide out? I'll try to remember to answer that in a second. Or wait, maybe I'll answer it now. If your heater is putting out crazy amounts of carbon monoxide, find out why it's putting out crazy amounts of carbon monoxide. The first thing I would do is take the heater, take the inlet off, take the exhaust off, set it outside and run it. No enclosure around it or anything. Run it that way, measure the carbon monoxide, check to see if the heater is working okay. If it's not, that indicates that it's actually a problem with the controller or something in the heater itself, fan not turning fast enough, or maybe check the fuel pump to see if it says 22 milliliters on it. They might have shipped it with a bigger one or a smaller one that it's causing carbon monoxide. And then basically put the exhaust on, retest it, put the intake on, retest it, install it in your system and retest it. Most of the time when people are having trouble with carbon monoxide or soot or ash or carbon in these heaters, it's because they are very, 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 very times 10 sensitive to airflow around the inlet and exhaust. So if you don't get that right, if you're not 100% sure that you've got that right, then yeah, don't go looking elsewhere, because you're gonna buy an extra controller and do all this other stuff, and then you're gonna find out that it was because you've got a roof vent in your small space, and every time you turn that roof vent on, it's causing a low pressure inside of the area where the heater is, and that's causing the CO or the carbon monoxide. So these heaters are extremely sensitive, and almost everyone I talk to who ends up getting back to me finds some sort of problem where the heater was installed in too much of a confined space. They had the exhaust pointing out a wall where there was air coming, like air blowing on it or something like that. As far as controllers go, I always say buy them as a set. You need to do a huge amount of research to make sure that you actually get the right one. And I'm never confident. I've never been confident ordering one being sure that I was going to get the right one. So anytime I have ordered a controller, I always order controller and ECU together. If you do that, you are fairly certain that they're going to work, and you can upgrade to something neat. You can get, you can get something cool if you do that, something with Bluetooth compatibility. As far as the adjustability goes, most heaters do not have adjustability anymore built into an engineering mode. Most heaters have basically one of two things. They have either a manual way to switch to lower the fuel input, which is either an alpine mode or what is the other one? Plateau mode. They both do the same thing. They lower the fuel input. And the other thing, these heaters actually do it automatically. So once you're over like 6,000 feet or something like that, they'll reduce the fuel input. But again, I am at about, what did we decide? 3,444 feet. I am at 1 kilometer, 1,050 meters. And my heaters work perfectly fine here. I've had probably over a dozen heaters at this point, and all of mine work perfectly fine. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. 20 miles an hour. That's only roughly 19. Yeah. Have a good night. Thanks for stopping by, Robert. Has been fun. 0.61. Yeah. What mode for sea level? You should be at standard mode for sea level, as long as there's not a problem with your heater. 700 feet. Yeah, mine works awesome. Yeah. Can you fool it to go faster with gearing? You may be able to do something. You may be able to do something with a connection. No. The answer is no. You could potentially feed more power. Yeah, the short answer is no, but you can technically feed power to the fan and manually increase it. But yeah. we have been discussing on here a little bit about basically adding small amounts of gasoline to your diesel, and that will lean it out some. But here's another thing I have a hard time remembering this, even though I tell people this constantly, and that is lean can also cause carbon monoxide. So rich will cause carbon monoxide, lean will cause carbon monoxide. So you don't just want to assume that one thing or the other is happening. You could have a fuel flow issue, a bad fuel pump or something like that. But anyway, so yeah, a battery on a trailer powering my bike, but it seems like everybody thinks that I should put 2 of these batteries in my bus. It's mean? What's mean? What are we talking about? I just let my hypothetical one do one thing. Whatever it is. Yeah, so lean. Lean is a problem. Lean can be a problem. One in the bus and make silly videos. Sorry, drag racing thing. Oh. Lean is mean. Yeah. Yeah, I used to work. I always say that I used to work on a snowmobile racing team, but it was actually my father who worked on a snowmobile racing team, and I was drug along as free labor. So back from the early 90s, my father worked on, I know this sounds conceited or like I'm, bigging up my father, and why wouldn't I? Because he's my father. But we lived in a small town, so there wasn't a lot of mechanics. And my father was one of the few mechanics who actually did modifications and, yeah, raced and stuff like that. So my father was good enough of a mechanic that he actually was head mechanic for 2 competing teams. So he worked at a Yamaha dealership, and the Yamaha dealership had a Yamaha Exciter and a Yamaha Phaser that they raced, and they had raced for years. There was a guy named John who had a VMAX 4 that was in like 90, I think they only came out in 92 or something like that. But anyway, there's a guy named Johnny Hash was his name. And yeah, he had a VMAX 4 that he dumped a ridiculous amount of money into. So that was 2 Yamaha teams. And then the other guys, oh man, I forgot the name of the guy. Hurdy? Anyway, he worked for a Polaris team. So the 2 Yamaha teams, well, there was 3 Yamaha snowmobiles, and they were all in different classes, so they weren't racing against each other. But the Yamaha Exciter and the Polaris 650 that my father also worked on the team for, these guys actually competed against each other, and my father was the head mechanic for both teams. So that was kind of kind of funny. I think I started to tell you guys that story because we used to bring methanol to the races. This is back in the days before fuel injection, or before a common fuel injection. Anyway, they did make a Indy RXL that had fuel injection, but they just always blew up. Anyway, what I'm saying is we brought methanol to the races, and if you showed up at the start line and the temperature happened to warm up, you could put 10% ethanol in your fuel to change about 1 jet size. It would actually lean it out a bit. So we used to do that during race days. Yep, methanol. That's freaking cool. Yamaha builds the best outboards. Yeah, I used to do not a lot of big outboard stuff, but we had what are they? The big oil drums that people on the east and west coast have for their home heating oil. We had one of those cut in half and a piece of metal welded on it. That was our test tank for our outboard motors. And we also serviced the Department of Fisheries and Oceans, DFO, boats and stuff. So we worked on quite a bit of stuff. So the dealer I worked at actually sold, when I started there, Yamaha, Polaris, and Roper tractors. I remember riding a 440 Exciters. Yeah, that was a cool looking sled. The what is it? SRX 440. That was badass looking machine with the cutout for the radiator. That and the Ski-Doo SRV, the 340 and 440s, man, they look cool still to this day. My dad owned a pair as well. Ski-Doos. Yeah. I had Ski Rules, Moto Skis, old Polaris TX. Lots of stuff back in the day. The only snowmobile I ever bought for myself, because I wanted to take some chick out on a ride when I was, I think, like 20 or 22, was a Yamaha Phaser 2 Deluxe. I didn't buy it new. I bought it used. But yeah, that was cool. That was fun. Both batteries in the bus. It looks like I'm going to have to buy another battery to make everybody happy. I think my door came open because I'm feeling a cold breeze. Just hold on a second, fellas. What is going on here? Nope, door isn't open. Why does it feel cold in here? That's weird. Anyway, both in the bus. Roper, yeah, Roper tractors. I remember one of my first, so a little bit of background, this time turning into a complete rant, but a little bit of background. My father was a mechanic and I was a bit of a problem child. So I spent a lot of time with my father growing up. I actually rebuilt my first engine when I was 14 years old. I rebuilt a RM80 from the transmission up. It had a bad crankshaft. My dad bought it for $150. And oh, there's Kush. She wants in the bus. Just hold on. Hey, buddy. You want in here? You want to come in here? You want to come in? Come on. Come say hi to the people. Good girl. Good girl. You want to say hi to the people? Hey, you going to say hi to everyone? You going to say hi? Say hi. Say hi. Good girl. All right. Yeah, so I rebuilt my first engine when I was 14 years old. So when I got my first job at 17, I knew I knew how to fix stuff pretty well. And one of the first jobs that I did one of the first things that I had to fix when I got to my first job was a Roper transmission on a tractor. And they don't have oil in them. They're just packed full of grease, literally just packed full of grease, or at least this one was. And it was, so a lot of new transmissions, are hydrostatic, but this one actually had gears. So you would shift it, I don't know, at like 6 speeds or something. So yeah, I actually had to split the transmission apart. And I just remember, like, it was so weird. It was like handfuls and handfuls and handfuls of grease, and then a bunch of time in a Varasol parts washer thing to clean the inside of the transmission out. And then, yeah, I can't even remember what the problem was with it, but repairing it, probably axle bushing bearing things or something, packing it all back full of grease and putting it together. one of the other things, kind of weird how you remember some weird things, but one of my other jobs, or probably a job that same day, was Yamaha snowblower. And Yamaha and Honda snowblowers still to this day have tracks on them instead of wheels. And yeah, I forget, something with the track was wrong and I had to fix that. Anyway, diesel heaters must have sooted up and flamed out. What? Diesel? Oh, that's why it was cold. I think it's probably Kush standing outside whining at the door. You ran out of fuel mix. What do we got here? In parallel, so at 25.6 officially, I have considered doing 24 volts, but if I do that, it gets much more complicated with charging and then running stuff, doesn't it? Because I'm not just going to be running inverters. I'm not just going to be running an inverter. My air compressors, diesel heaters, be running a bunch of stuff off 12 volts. The bus itself has a heater in it that takes quite a bit of power. There's the power ramp, the power doors. Anyway, so parallel is still 12 volt series, yeah. Yeah, Roper transmissions in the cold with literally just like wheel bearing grease and handfuls of whatever some yuppie put in there. Almost everything that is 12 volts is actually made to run fine on 24 volts. Yeah, these diesel heaters will actually run on 24 volts. I've never done it, but that's, yeah. The stuff on the bus will not do that because it is true. There's no electronics involved. So if you hook 24 volts up to it, it might operate, but it's going to work twice as fast because there's no sensing, there's no electronics to say, hey, we're hooked up to 24 volts. So cool your jets. But yeah, lots of electronic loads can sense what they're hooked up to and compensate. Phaser with a big ass front windshield. Yeah. Phaser 2 Deluxe. The Deluxe was, I think, two-tone blue with gold pinstriping. Oh, the main difference with the Phaser 2 Deluxe compared to the Phaser 2 was that it had electric start, which was pretty cool. But yeah, nasty ass grease. First paying job after the child slavery. Yeah, exactly. So all that to say that by the time I got my first job, I knew my way around engines pretty well. And I worked on a race team, and that was really pretty cool. I remember porting race cylinders at the kitchen table with my dad and my mother. It's kind of hilarious because most sane women would just say, no, no carburetors, no porting, no cylinders in the house, guys. Like, get out to the garage, go down to the basement, whatever. My mother was so used to having shenanigans go on in the house that I remember one day her coming in and I was going at a cylinder with a file and my dad had the other cylinder. I think they were phaser cylinders. And I was filing one out. He was filing one out. And my mom comes into the kitchen and sees this. And she's like, no cylinders at the table until you're finished supper. I remember my dad laughing his head off, which caused me to laugh. And then I got in trouble a little bit. But yeah. Wow. Where are we here? I've run my 12 volt diesel heater on 30 volts. Only problem was glow plug. Pulled the 5 more juice. Blah, blah, blah. Why isn't my mouth working? Change the settings. Yeah. Automotive 12-volt stuff is usually 15.5. Yeah. Damn fancy electric start. Yeah. That was fancy back in the day. Hey, shh. Cool your jets. Who would want to miss out on pull starting their sled? Oh man, I pull started. I would like to know. That would be a statistic that would be interesting to know. How many times I've pulled a pull cord on, and I guess I'd like to add it all up to figure out how many pulls I've done. Hey, shut up. It's probably BJ looking for you. Calm down. What do you even see? I don't think there's even anything there. Is it a ghost? Yeah, I remember. Calm down. Stop it. Stop it. Good girl. Good girl. Come here. Come here. Hi. Come here. What you doing? What are you doing over there? Are you friends with any other YouTubers? I am. I am friends, good friends, with the Jet Ski Brothers in Washington. I've gone to visit them a few times. If you want to see something really cool, go to the Jet Ski Brothers, and they've got a Josh just a few months ago hit 100 miles an hour on his V8. It is a Yamaha Wave Runner with a turbocharged LS V8 in it, and he just recently hit 100 miles an hour on it. He's been trying for a couple of years, which it probably isn't impressive to a lot of people because you hear crazy numbers with cars, but it takes a lot of work just to get a V8 into a jet ski. Takes a heck of a lot of work to get a turbocharged V8 into a jet ski and make custom gearbox and all sorts. I built the first exhaust system for it, actually. Anyway, I'm getting off topic here, but yeah, I got to try. The last time I was there, I was just there a few months ago, but I guess at the end of July, not a few months ago. I was going to get to try the latest iteration of the 8 jet ski. Had a new turbo on it and stuff. I was going to get to try it, and the high pressure fuel line burst, and they couldn't get one. I was leaving the next day or the day after, and I didn't get to try it because we couldn't get a fuel line for it. Just run them in parallel. And see, you keep topped off. Yeah, I am wondering what I'm going to do about solar, because it seems silly not to. With that little pump going that fast. Yeah. Anyway, Jet Ski Brothers. There's actually 3 of them: Josh, Jason, and Jacob. Josh is kind of the ringleader. He makes the videos and does most of the shooting. Jacob is a really interesting character, is completely obsessed with jet skis and has a massive collection. He rides mostly like stand-up stuff. And then Jason doesn't appear a whole lot in the videos, but he's a really cool guy. And yeah, they're really fun to hang out with, really nice people, and seems safe. Yeah, I don't know. The fastest I went on it, yeah, I held the record on it for a little while. I was there in, I think, 2023 and went 92 or 93 miles an hour. So if you go back through their archives, you will see videos of me with the Jet Ski Brothers, all sorts of silly stuff, riding my jet ski there. Yeah, racing against them, doing all sorts of silly stuff. Anyway, I've also met a couple of other YouTubers. Dang it. the latest one, I can't. Hippie Outdoors stopped by and visited me probably close to a year ago now. Less than that. Anyway, he has a YouTube channel, and there has been somebody else, I'm pretty sure, that I can't think of, but there's also a guy in Ontario who I haven't followed for quite a while, but his name is, I think, Chris, but he goes by One Pug Life, and you've probably heard people say like frog snacks and for frog snacks, or like pan antler, and he comes up with all sorts of weird stuff like choochin, and he came up with a bunch of stuff, sayings and weird language that now I hear a whole lot of other people using. And I don't think a lot of people know that it actually came from him. But I actually visited him back in 2016 and drove. I don't know if any of you guys have seen it, probably not, but I built a push lawnmower into a ride-on lawnmower. It didn't actually have a blade underneath it. I basically turned a push mower into a go-kart for one of my neighbor's friend kid. Actually, I wasn't friends with the parents. Anyway, kid kept hanging around my house. I built him a go-kart. And yeah, One Pug Life with the motorhome. Yeah, Dave's Farm. His channel used to be pretty big. He was building lawn chairs and jumping them. Anyway, I was at his house and jumped I think he called me, the name of the video is something like BC Balky or something like that. Anyway, I drove my go-kart thing off of the roof of a shipping container into a berm jump thing. And hung out with him for a couple of days. Kind of a strange fellow, but yeah, he was jumping. He basically turned lawn chairs and like lazy boys into go-karts, and they would have races on like lazy boys and stuff. He was pretty early on in the game. I watched him for years, and then went and visited him in 2016. I've had a bunch of people tell me, like, I've said stuff before, like, I've been making videos for years, and people say, you've made your first video in 2023 or 2022. I started making videos in 2014, I believe, but that was a different channel. I have another YouTube channel that I don't use much anymore. It's called the Joel Arsenault YouTube channel. And that's where all my random nonsense, I did some vlogging, I did some recycling, scrapping. I did basically, my shrink told me that I needed to do something to direct my energy, and I chose making YouTube videos. So it was basically something to keep me sane, or keep me sane. That would imply that I'm sane. Something to stop me from going completely off the rails. That's a better way to say it. 93 miles an hour on a jet ski, gasoline, diesel heater. See a trend. The jet ski, like, I can't explain to you how, there's so many things that I want to say about it, but how well engineered Josh did, how well Josh engineered it so that it actually turned out to still work like a jet ski. Because I've seen other people put big engines in jet skis, but they're not really in them. They're kind of on them, or they don't look like a jet ski anymore. His still rides and operates like a jet ski. Looking at it from a distance, you would never know. The other thing I was going to say is, it is crazy intimidating because the only place for the engine is literally underneath the seat. It has a low profile intake on it. So you're literally sitting on top. The seat is like a thin layer of foam, and you're literally sitting on top of the intake of a V8 that is turbocharged, with a turbocharger sitting behind your butt. And to say that it's intimidating, it is exciting. I tell you that. It accelerates like nothing I've ever tried before. It's kind of crazy to think that you feel like because it's water, it should slip. Like you shouldn't be able to get traction in water. But I've driven like pro mod drag racing snowmobiles on ice. I used to do some of the testing for the VMAX 4, which I don't know if you guys know what that is at all, but it's a 4-cylinder it's basically 300 and some horsepower. Well, the way it was modified, it was 320, 340 horsepower, somewhere in that range, with a few hundred carbide ice picks digging into the ice that weighed almost nothing, that you kind of just lay down on. And yeah, it accelerated really, really hard, but I'm pretty sure that this V8 jet ski accelerated just as hard, maybe harder for the first, probably for the first 150 feet or so anyway. Anyway, I'm getting way too excited. I may have a video on YouTube from 18 years ago. Cool. Zip ties, bias plies, use his words a lot. Yeah, One Pug, he's a very interesting character, and he's very creative. I hear other people like AVE. I don't know if you guys know AVE, Arduino versus Evil. He's another Canadian YouTuber from BC. I hear him saying stuff that I know he's heard on One Pug Life's channel. And at first anyway, it used to annoy me a bit that he didn't give credit for it, but it just happens. You watch somebody else's videos and you start talking like them. Yeah, I've done it myself. I'm definitely guilty of it. And I know people probably watch my videos and say stupid things that I say. But anyway, rant. So I don't know if we actually figured out anything here, but it was interesting hanging out with you guys. I should probably wrap this up now. And AVE hasn't had anything. What? He hasn't heard anything. He created it. I don't know about that. One Pug Life was saying a lot of the stuff he said back in like 2004, 2007-ish. I've watched AVE since very, 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 very early on in his channel, but I'm not saying that he copied it directly. I'm not saying he's plagiarizing or anything, but I watched both of them, and AVE started saying stuff that One Pug Life said way after One Pug Life started saying it. Chris, feels weird calling him One Pug Life. Monkey see, monkey do. Be modding heaters soon. Just be safe out there, kids. What was, the exciting news that I forgot. Oh my goodness. Wow. Okay, so on my last live stream, the reason why I came on was to tell you guys that there were 2 new exciting heaters, and that I had reached out, and I was pretty certain that, how do you say their name? Max Heating Rods. They have a heater that doesn't require any batteries. It requires batteries, but they're on board. So Max Heating Rods, don't run away because this isn't about that. Open up a separate tab and just listen to my voice yakking away here. Max Heating Rods has made a heater that uses Peltier devices to charge a battery. So in theory, you can run the heater indefinitely as long as you have fuel in it. So it is self-powering. If you haven't seen David McLucky's video, him and some of his viewers actually built one of these, and I'm pretty sure that's where Max Heating Rods got the idea from, or an engineer that works for them or whatever. Built-in power. Yes, not only built-in power, but self-charging. So it uses the heat to actually make electricity, a Peltier device. They're very inefficient. The heater is like $1,600 Canadian, or by the time it was shipped, I actually had one in my shopping cart and was going to buy it, but it was outrageously expensive. So I just couldn't justify it at all. So anyway, if you haven't seen David McLucky's videos, he has a series on actually him and a bunch of people who watched his channel. They all got together and somebody made one part of it and somebody made another part of it. And then David got it and he assembled it. And I followed it, but I have a very bad memory, but very interesting series. I would definitely recommend watching it. He does some very cool stuff. And if you follow his channel, you will know that somebody now is actually making a real 8 kilowatt heater. So apparently the heater burns about 1 liter per hour, and the heat output, so the heat that actually comes out of the vent, is 8 kilowatts. It burns about 10 kilowatts of fuel, and I guess efficiency wise, it loses about 2 kilowatts, which is kind of what you'd expect. So it would be nice to have a heat exchanger on the exhaust. But anyway, the whole story that I'm trying to get across is he has one of those on his channel, which he has taken apart and did a test fire on. I told you guys in my last live stream that I was going to reach out to HLN, or that I had reached out to HLN. That's the company that's making the real 8 kilowatt heater. It's twice as long as a normal 8 kilowatt or 5 kilowatt heater. Anyway, I reached out to them and I've talked to a guy, Mike there, and he has agreed to send me a heater. So I gave him my information. I might have scared him away by saying way too much, because I started talking to him about what direction I thought the business of diesel heaters was going to go in. And he started asking me questions and basically what sort of price range my audience was, stuff like that. Anyway, he started asking me business stuff and I'm sending me one. So anyway, that's my story. So hopefully in the next, Kush does not like that I'm talking to you guys. I'm sorry, Kush, but I got to do this. Anyway, peace out. See ya. Thanks for hanging out. I appreciate it. Don't say too much. It never helps. Yeah, shut up. You shush. We're going in the house soon. Quiet down. Yeah, what was I saying? I really just wanted to be helpful to this company. And so I reached out to them and said, look, even if you don't send me a heater, give me some information. I'll talk about your heater because I think people should know about this. Obviously, I'd prefer if you sent me a heater. That way I could actually test it and have a heater. But let's see. What are people saying? Wow, checked out Home Depot US and then Canada US. 200 watt solar panels. About 240 USD. 470. My brain is having a hard time functioning. I think I've been staring at the screen too long. There is no reason why the heat couldn't, why heat couldn't regen a battery. Wait, maybe there is. Yeah, so basically what they're using, it's called a Peltier device, and it's been around forever, but they're not very efficient. So one side of it is hot, the other side of it dissipates heat, and yeah, it's magic, pixie dust, black magic nonsense. They've been around forever, and there's different quality levels. So you can get very cheap ones just for silly electronics, and then you can get much more expensive, more efficient ones. But even the more efficient ones aren't very efficient. So these heaters don't draw much power. So what they do is they have batteries to start the heater. And then as it's running, you're getting like an amp of charging, or maybe not even an amp, but they're using that to regenerate the batteries. So you probably they have a way to charge the batteries built into the heater. So you can charge them up, and then probably you can start the heater. And as long as you run the heater for 4 hours or 6 hours or something like that, it will replenish the batteries. but there's not a, it's not like you could charge the batteries on the heater and charge your cell phone and, you know, power a light or something like that. If you did that, you'd deplete the batteries on the heater and it'd eventually power down or flame out or whatever. Anyway. Yes, that is Kush, Andy's dog. Get Max Beating Rods to give you a generator too. They sell. Yeah, I almost bought a generator from them, and then I do have one of their heaters. I have one of their 8 kilowatt heaters, and I was annoyed with them because I did a video unboxing it and showing it to you guys. And then I actually tried to do a long-term test on it. And immediately, as soon as I started testing the exhaust, it would start, the amount of, it was actually, I could see black smoke coming out the exhaust. And I sent them a message immediately after I bought it. Sent them a message asking them, like, hey, is there, I can't find a way to access an engineering menu. Does this have any way to lower the fuel? I told them what elevation I was at. And they completely ghosted me. So I was going to make a video about it, but I was really angry because it makes me angry when companies just don't respond. And so I was going to buy a generator from them and then remembered that they didn't respond to me the last time that I tried to contact them. And then a Hyundai generator came up on Amazon, and I decided to buy the Hyundai generator instead. I contacted Max Beating Rods asking them if they were interested in working with me and sending me one of those heaters. And again, they just completely ghosted me. So it seems like they have a habit of just not responding to people at all. They probably have a really good product from what I've seen on the internet. It looks like they have a really good product. It's kind of like, I was going to say kind of like Viver. I think a lot of their stuff, how do I say? I think they're kind of more leading the way. Viver plays it a little bit more safe. And I think what they do is like look at the other companies and say, what sold really well last year? We'll do some of that. And that's why Viver has this toolbox heater this year with Bluetooth and whatever. So they're kind of, Viver seems to play the safer long game, where Max Beating Rods seems to do a lot of, somebody's doing innovation for them, which is obvious, where they just made the self-powered heater or had somebody make it for them. That dog is going gray. He is getting old. Give him love. Yeah, Kush is she, not that I care, but Kush is 11, almost 12 years old and a black lab. So she's on borrowed time there now. She's a wonderful, loving, lovely dog. But Andy plays video games and will ignore her. Andy will be playing video games and cuss or whatever, and she'll get super upset. But yeah, she's pretty sensitive. She doesn't like that I'm talking and ignoring her, so she's fussing. Anyway, so yeah, HLN, as far as I know, is sending me an actual 8 kilowatt heater, which is really cool. They are very different. This isn't like this isn't Max Beating Rods type 8 kilowatt or Viver 8 kilowatt or anybody else. It's literally, if you go on David McLucky's channel and look at it, he actually does a disassembly of it. You can tell by the pictures, it's not the same thing. It's huge. It is $900 and some dollars US, $945 US or something like that. But I think if you were using this as a backup, if you're using this to heat your garage or a couple of rooms in your house, or maybe your house or something like that, the quality that HLN has for all of their products looks top notch. They're kind of at a price point between, they're lower than like Webesto and the other E name that I can't pronounce or don't try to pronounce. and the really cheap guys. So they're somewhere in the middle there, but their product looks like top notch, really, really nice quality. The wiring harness are all sealed, really nice sheathing on the wires, and just really, really nice stuff. Yeah, I can't. SPAR for short. Yeah. David McLucky has so many diesel hitter videos. Yeah, he's like diesel heater Big Daddy. He's got a bunch of stuff where he does all sorts of like RV showers. You can get like hydronic diesel heaters that heat showers. I think he does some propane ones as well. Anyway, I don't know if he has like a full-time, I don't know if he has a job or if he just does YouTube now. I'm guessing he probably does an actual job based on his YouTube numbers, but he does a huge amount of heater stuff, and yeah, does a lot of techie stuff as well. Like, I stayed away from the afterburner. I tell people, if you want to know about afterburner stuff, go to his channel. For those of you who don't know, Afterburner is a controller that gives you Wi-Fi capability, access to controlling every parameter, setting calendars, it's ridiculous what you can do with it. Comes with it. Anyway, Afterburner, David McLucky's channel has all kinds of information about it. And I don't even try to touch it because I can't come anywhere near doing what he does. He's got a very unique voice, very unique way of not editing. I was going to say editing, but he just, almost all of his videos there's some cuts in it, but I don't know. I guess it's kind of just not giving a crap to some extent, and it is what it is, but he's also pretty good at talking to a camera. He hacked Webesto for that shower setup. Yeah, I can't remember. I thought that he had done a couple of them, but I remember only one particularly where he was testing the heater outside. Afterburner was crazy hard to get, though. Yeah, it was like one guy in Australia making them or something. Was it some guy named John or something? Hello. Today, I actually started one of my videos way back when I was burning waste oil. I actually did. Yeah, we've talked to each other a couple times in comment sections and stuff, and he was basically like, I'm done with this. I'm not trying waste oil stuff anymore. If you want to see waste oil stuff, go watch Joel over on Lowered Expectations. And I don't blame him because it was kind of miserable and dirty and stinky. He's a limey. Yeah. Yeah, very, very interesting character. Anyway, I have gotten through everything that I wanted to talk about, except for I did want to ask about inverters and shunts and DC to DC and crimp tools for connectors, but I think I'm going to just do a bunch more research and talk to people in comments. I might actually make a video that isn't a live video and ask very specific questions, but yeah. Anyway, always in orange coveralls. Yeah. I think actually the very latest videos that I've seen, he wasn't, but I think that's because he does like a lot of summer. Yeah, he does. It doesn't get quite as cold, quite as quick where he is. And I think maybe he shot the footage earlier, but I think he was saying it was like 24 degrees Celsius in his shop, which is, I don't know, 70 Fahrenheit or something like that. And he was trying to test the 8 kilowatt heater. And he was just like, no, I can't. It's making way too much heat. Anyway, he is a very interesting fellow, regardless of what he does. And he does some very interesting stuff. Hug that dog on camera or I'll unsubscribe. Old dogs are precious. Hey, Kush, come here. Come here. Come here, see the people. Hey, come here. Come on. Come. Good girl. Hey, good girl. What? You come here. It's okay. Come on. You're not in trouble. You're not in trouble. Come here. Come see the people. Hey, come on. Hey, good girl. Look what I got. Look. Oh, I know what you want. How about this? How about a little piece of chicken? Hey? Mmm. Want a piece of chicken? Oh, you gonna have a piece of chicken? Oh, that's a good piece of chicken. Right? Right. Good girl. Good girl. Right. Kush loves a good skidoo ride. And by that, I don't mean on a snowmobile. She drags her butt a lot. I think it's a stress reaction. Now that she thinks food's involved. Yes, live is. What the heck just happened there? My screen's doing weird things. Live is limited with information. It's hard to retain too. Yeah, we had to. I actually had one cat that you guys probably have seen on camera. The white cat. His name was Quasar. So Megan and I had a cat. Megan and I split up, and she took the cat because she is a veterinary technician. Made more sense. I always say he would have had a lot more fun with me, but he'll live much longer with her. Hey. But also, I just couldn't take her cat away. I would rather be upset that I lost my cat than take somebody's cat away and feel guilty about taking their cat. So anyway, I've had people move in with me, and when they did, I got 2 new cats. So we've got Orangey, which is Andy's cat, and Kush is also Andy's dog. And then there is Florence and Moose. And Florence is other cat that you guys have probably seen, the younger cat on camera here quite a bit. And then Moose was a 15-year-old Boston Retriever. Wow, I'm tired. Boston Terrier. And yeah, we ended up putting him down last March. Yeah, it's really hard to keep an eye on stuff. I don't do this a lot, and I'm not that sharp anyway. I'm not that quick, so information passes by pretty quick. Anyway, thanks for hanging out with me and for sharing your thoughts and for entertaining. I don't know who was more entertained, me or you, but thanks. And I think that's it. That's everything on my list. Hopefully HLN actually sends me a heater. That would be awesome. I run a, why can't I read that? Renogy 2000 watt inverter charger with my 2 Viver batteries. Cool. I think I actually had brought up a Renogy DC to DC charger. Nope. Yes, Renogy. I saw another guy, a YouTuber, Calgary. Uh-oh. Oh, I'm playing somebody else's video. Yeah, so I had actually looked up one of their DC to DC chargers. I've got to go take care of Kush. She's starting to fuss. And I've got some chicken to eat that I forgot about, so that's pretty awesome. So yes, thanks everyone for hanging out. 40 amp Renogy DC to DC, cool. It works really good. Okay, well that makes my decision easy. I was wondering what one I should get, but heat is the name of the game. Not everyone wants to get into the weeds, but Thanks for what you do. Yeah, I totally get that. I originally started this channel because I was trying to find a cheap way to heat my garage, and then realized that there was some practicality in what I was doing, but I know a lot of people like Werner wants to see practicality and stuff that's actually going to work and save money. And yeah, anyway, but a lot of people want entertaining stuff or want to see ridiculous stuff that has, it's kind of like how much duct tape does it take to lift a car? People want to know that, but are you really going to ever do that? Probably not. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm not going to keep you guys here any longer. I appreciate everyone hanging out. Kush appreciates all of you as well, but she's really focused on the chicken right now, so she's not going to stop by and actually say anything to the camera. Yeah, thanks for entertaining me. I think it was my job to entertain you guys, but I think the opposite has happened. So entertaining, yeah. Danger makes it entertaining, and if you can stay warm doing it, then great. All right, guys, that is it. I'm out of here. Have a great night, everyone. Thanks for stopping by. Happy New Year to anyone that I haven't already said it to. And I will see you guys soon. I hope to have my other video out on the gasoline diesel mix on Wednesday. Yeah, no promises, but I should see you then. Bye.